conditional statements. Now we're going to deal in this lab with an if statement. And an if statement, pretty much it just checks to see if a condition is true, or if a certain situation that we expect is in fact the way we want it to be. An analogy that I use in lecture all the time is that if we're going down I-95 and we see a great deal of cars stopped, brake lights, at that point we make a conscious choice. We've got a condition that we evaluate. And in our mind we say, if the traffic ahead of us is stopped to a sufficient value, or a large enough number of vehicles are stopped ahead of us, then we will take some alternative path. So it's a conditional statement, and the same logic will apply to this scenario. If the length of characters in a sign is over 5, then we'll have to charge them for additional characters. If somebody had it gold leafed, they'll have to pay $15 extra. If it's made out of oak, it would cost $20 extra. So there are conditions that, if they do exist, if the condition is something that we can test and evaluate, then we can act accordingly. So for this, let's start out. They've provided us some comments here, and the comments are areas where we need to declare variables. So we're going to charge for the sign. Now, they want us to, in step number 2, the cost of the sign, so the charge, I like to copy and paste these in here. Copy of the charge of the sign will be 0.00. Now we know from the previous lessons that that is a float or a fractional decimal point number. So we don't have to explicitly say the data type that we're using, but we can see it and we understand, knowing data types at this point, that is a float. So we'll come down for the number of characters. For that one, we're going to use the variable numchars, and for the next one it will be color, and the type of wood will be wood type. Now, each one of these variables will be assigned some value, and they want us to put 8 as the number of characters. The color will be gold, and the wood type will be oak. So these are the values that we have set. We're not asking the user to input these. That's something that we've predefined. Now, with that said, here we're assigning our variables. Now we have to create whatever our if statement is going to be, however we're going to word it. And I'm going to put a little space in here to give us somewhere to work. So we're going to have our if statement checking the condition, whatever the condition may be, along with any assignments that we may have to use. So we've got charge. Charge is how much we're charging for the sign. We initialized it with a value of 0. So if we look at the charge for the sign is a minimum of $35. So let's start out and we'll reassign a value to that variable, and we'll assign a new value of $35. That's the minimum. So let's assume you've got the minimum. Now let's test to see if you've gone beyond the minimum. And the minimum is the first 5 letters. So if you've gone beyond the minimum, so we'll say if, and what is the value we need to test? It's this num chars. If num chars is greater than 5. So if you have over 5 characters, and I'll put a colon after that, and the colon defines the end of this if conditional. So between the if and that colon, that's the condition that's being tested. If num chars is greater than 5, well, what value is currently in num chars? The system goes and looks in that variable and sees what's there. 8 is the value in there. If 8 is greater than 5, is 8 greater than 5? Yes, that is a true statement. Then what's going to happen? So now if I put my insertion point or my cursor behind that colon and hit enter, the system automatically knows that I'm still working on that if conditional, and it indents the next line. And what that means is, if that condition is true, this is what's going to happen. Now, what is it that we want to have happen? Well, we want to change or increase the value of charge. So charge will equal now charge plus, so charge is going to have a new value, and the new value will be equivalent to what it used to be, or $35, plus, and now we have to come up with that math. And the math is, let's wrap it in parentheses here. The increase is anything beyond 5. So let's say num chars minus 5. I'll wrap this whole thing in parentheses times, I'll put a little space in there. We don't have to have it in here, but just so we can see what's going on a little better. A dollar sign, I want a 4 in there. So it's the new value of charge is equivalent to the old value of charge plus the difference between how many characters the sign is going to be and the minimum, so how much you went over the minimum, times 4, or $4 per letter. So this is 8 minus 5 is 3, times 4 is 12. So now charge will be equal to 35 plus 12. So we've created a new value for charge in this assignment statement. We have to, at this point, do a couple more tests. Let's come down to, let's say, line 20. And on line 20, our next test is going to be if color is equivalent to gold. So if, we'll look at the variable color, is equivalent to two equal signs next to each other, testing to see if they have the same value. Gold. If color is equivalent to gold, colon, end of our test, enter, what do we want to have happen? Well, we need to modify what charge is. So let's copy that little bit of code up above. We'll paste it here. The new charge will be charge plus, and how much do we increase if they have the color of gold? That's 15. So let's come down to the next line. Come down to 23. We'll do the next condition. Next condition checks the type of wood. If wood type is equivalent to oak and colon. Then we'll put our same little bit of code in there, charge equals charge plus. How much do we charge extra if they use oak? Well, if it's made out of oak, they said $20 extra. We'll go ahead and add that 20 in there. So we've gone through and in our conditional statements, our logic set the minimum so that if you're over the minimum, we'll increase it by $4 per each number you went over. If it's gold, kick it up 15, and if it's oak, kick it up 20. So now on the left here, they say if we run this, and we've done everything the way that we were supposed to do it, the charge for this sign is 82.0. So let's go ahead and execute the code or run it, and we'll see what happens. We should have had some output over here. Let me run it again. Let me test it and see. My system's been acting up on me a little bit. It says that I did what I was supposed to do. Let me run it again now. There it goes. So the charge for this sign is $82. Now, down here on line 29, we passed this string literal constant, including the dollar sign, to the print statement. And we concatenated together the value in charge that's been passed to the string function to convert it to a string. So we kind of locked together or bonded together two strings. Pass those two strings as one common string off to the print function, and it output what we have here. So we've tested it. It went through, no problems. Go ahead and click grade. Check to ensure that you do have the score that you're supposed to have. So we've gone through step by step. Our variables got declared. We wrote our code out. We took care of everything we had to take care of. So I'll see you in the next one.